segmentation. It's the ability to segment your upper half and your lower half. And this what creates the majority of power output in our throw. It's stretch, right? Launching from stretch, hip shoulder separation. There's a lot of different pieces to look at when we're looking at the overall optimization of launching. If you just looked at postures, right? And again, just remember that this is a series of movements that are extremely fast paced, fast twitch. We're not making a big old fuss about like, hey, we need to get here, right? Or we need to get here. But you can probably understand that even though these are different camera angles, like this is a far superior posture than this one. And what we have in this one is flat ground, and you're under 18. So I say a lot of guys 18U are going to struggle with stability, which is just the ability to handle and express more force. So as you get older and as you start really ingraining those corrective exercises that I'm going to give you in the report, these postures are going to be just a lot more obtainable right now. But we can provide you with certain senses of stability to allow your body to not have to compensate to get stretched. So what I like to do is I like to compare what does a lot of high tempo, high acceleration give someone? And for you, it looks like your body does really well. So let's take that information and let's try to modify our wind up to best suit that. So that's just a slight little tip that, again, it's not trying to regrain your entire delivery. It's just a real quick sample size of just like what we can do with our mindset when we're going to approach leg lift. Whereas I would say, like, I'd encourage you to think about just the tempo of how you lift your foot off the ground. This is something that as soon as you lift, thinking about lifting it pretty aggressively or rapidly could start triggering your body even more going down. Now, when we do have to then load up, catch the fall, there's more force to be had. The acceleration, I think, is just going to do really well for you because you can see your drive leg. And a lot of guys struggle with this, dude. I struggle with this, is obtaining that solidified drive leg mechanics on the slope while gravity is pulling you down, right? It takes a lot of stability. And, you know, especially at 16, dude, it's just going to be really hard to obtain. But I'd be curious to see what that momentum can get you. So you'll see stuff for the initial move, just very subtle, you know, drill progressions that you can start incorporating, not something that we're trying to reinvent the wheel by any means, right? Going over to the desktop, Castillo, this overhead view is just a cheat code. So you can see as he lifts, there's going to be a lot of turn. There's going to be a lot of momentum getting shift forward. Luis Castillo is such a good example because you guys are obviously really similar, but the way that he allows his body to use the gravity on the slope is exactly what we want. Okay, so this is the front view. I just want you to see this one singular piece of his lead leg, which is the ability to clear prior to anchor. Okay, this is what we're talking about with the segmentation. This is him anchoring down. This is a big disconnect from guys that throw high power output that guys that don't, is this claw back here, this lead hip. Again, not trying to overcomplicate it by any means. It's just kind of a good viewpoint. When we anchor down, watch his hip. Right? So he's anchoring down. He's cleared prior to anchoring. Anchor point is when you get to full front foot contact, which is full weight bearing on the lead leg. So now as he lands, he clears prior to landing. So now his block can occur more linear, right? So now as the pelvis, the hips rotate into that lead leg, into that femur, now it's locked in, it's sturdy. Going back to the iPad with you is that as soon as we come down into our anchor point, we're still kind of cut. We're still cut off. That's why I wrote in my notes too, right? You want to clear. This is such an interesting and tough concept to grab. If we're late to rotate, which I think you are, and that's could be a byproduct of really not allowing your body to accelerate as much as maybe it wants to, or it could be a byproduct of like you've been being told your arm is dragging, your arm is late, so you spend a lot more time back here to give it time, when in reality it's kind of like the opposite. If your arm's dragging, then force your body to go forward, and your athletic being, your physical athletic superiority will take over and force your arm to then lock into the slot that it needs to get into, right? That's why I'm such a big advocate for like establish the baseline, establish the foundation of athletic ability in movement, in throws, whatever, and then work from there, right? Because then you can just start manipulating like the way you move, how much you accelerate, how much you don't accelerate, how much you hesitate, you know, all these different things, and your body just adjusts and it organizes in order to complete whatever that task is. If your task in your mind is throw it as hard as I can, throw it as far as I can, or just throw it where I want, you know, command. It's gonna do its best to organize to complete that. So here, I would say if we can get going in the initial move, even a little bit more, I think we're gonna be able to then trigger, like I said earlier, more to catch, but trigger also the hips to freaking rotate. You'll see a couple videos too in the report for how that kind of interacts, right? So looking at this, if we're landed and we're not cleared, dude, then we're going to have to land, see the knee, we're going to have to clear post anchor point, which is a leak, which then comes into trail leg wants to shoot a little bit forward, right? And then now we're not allowing all that ground energy to come up to be able to utilize out of the fingers when it comes time to release that ball. General rule of thumb is I'd like to see a little bit more rotation, right? Kind of the halfway point. Again, we're not trying to get real emphasizing specific millisecond positions. It's just too hard, but it's a good viewpoint of like how these little breakdowns, right? Like maybe that's 2 or 3 extra miles an hour, right? Another Luis Castillo open side. Watch his front shoulder. See how his front shoulders are actually kind of angled down, right? Angled down, gets going. Boom. Now we're loading. Boom. Separate. Snaps. Anchors. We're locked. See the back foot? The back foot is fully up. And not everyone's going to look like that because it's kind of different in terms of how each individual's hips work and how their ankles work. But it's a pretty good viewpoint of how much your hips are getting into rotation. If your hips can get into more rotation without really like leaking, you do a really good job, let's be honest, of your drive leg. Like your drive leg's good, dude. But I think that what we're missing out on is maybe these compensations are coming from, like I said, with the arm drag. And to me, your arm's like, yeah, your arm action we'll talk about here in a little bit. It's going to improve once we really hammer out that segmentation. I'm going to even include, like, I'll do the initial move progressions first, play with that for like 2-3 weeks every day, just to get your brain accustomed to wanting to accelerate, work quick, right? Work quick, but never in a hurry. You're basically wanting to identify the exact tempo that your body and brain feel not only comfortable working at, but feel like good, feel athletic, right? It's always such a superior feeling when you just feel athletic. It looks like you're a freaking infielder, position player, whatever. Like that's so superior, right? So again, more acceleration. You're on a flat ground, so gravity's not pulling you as well. Boom. More external sense of stability in that drive leg. Now that drive leg is going to snap while the throwing arm retracts. And that's a good visual for like this energy that's sending up, right? And then, boom, when we anchor, watch your lead knee in this. It's still like opening a little bit, but it's blocking. It's blocking. You see that? Boom, shifts. So then if we don't position these bad boys, your hips or your pelvis, in accordance to like where your freaking femur is, dude. I know this is overcomplicated, but let's just say it's just, you're not going to be able to get as much. You're going to get some, dude, because you're blocking a lot of forward energy. It's just, can we do it more efficiently? Can we do it more efficiently to where now we're not leaking that little Johnny there, and we don't have to then succumb to this trail leg shooting forward?